silly little thing. Getting up in the morning, slicing bananas, pouring milk. Doesn't matter. We put things on, make our schedules, providing services and new technologies, a plan, labor issues, a portable safety net with strawberries and almond milk, with benefits and a sack of nuts, a sun salutation, a morning meditation, too big to fail, an individual security account, a legislative victory, a disappointment, an independent contractor, 30% less, and after that, a pour over. Numbers, bottom lines, buttered toast, bottoms up. A full-time worker, incentive, a screw, mindfulness, loving kindness, full benefits, 29 hours a week with ground flax seeds and a screenshot. No one said to turn it off. Invasive, espionage, data, dates, currency, a current scone, working, organizing online, a cinnamon roll, a bedroll, digital borders, walls, multinational, multi-grain, monopoly, neoliberal, Tai Chi, taxes, consumers, Uber, Amazon, Blacklist, BlackRock, Double Shot, labor law, Linnea, La Marzocco, Americano, Gibraltar cutoff, a tax haven, Ireland, apple, muffin, a pittance, pasture raised, organic, a capsule, SpaceX, an environment, an asana, the downward dog, gluten-free, evasions and below-cost pricing, cross-subsidized, a hole, an a-hole, a brown rice bowl. Welcome to Great Weather for Media's latest Zoom for Approaching a Shoreline, our beautiful 2022 anthology. And I started this out today with one of the pieces from our book, and that's Mira Martin Parker's Monopsony Oatmeal. Check it out. There it is visually for you. I'm really psyched to be the host of this today because it's such a fantastic group of writers from all over the world. I don't know if we've had quite as diverse a lineup. So let's get going with this reading. And just remind you that you can learn more about this book by going to greatweatherformedia.com and reading the reading the description and think about maybe picking yourself up a copy if you don't have it yet, picking it up for someone who loves poetry and short prose for the holidays. But let's get to the reading part, the part we love. So get you on the hook. Peggy Robles-Alvarado is a Jerome Hill Foundation Fellow in Literature and a 2020 Atticus Review Poetry Contest winner. She is also a Brio Award winner with fellowships from Canto Mundo, Desert Nights, Rising Stars, The Frost Place, and Bona, with advanced degrees in education and an MFA in performance studies. This initiated priestess in Lucumi and Palo is a 3-time International Latino Book Award winner who authored Conversations with My Skin and Homage to the Warrior Women. Through Robles Writers Productions, she created La Libreta, the Abuela Stories Project, 2016, and The Mujeres, The Magic, The Movement, and The Muse, 2017, widely published in journals and anthologies, Her work has been featured on HBO Habla Women and at the Lincoln Center, the Smithsonian Institute, Penn World Voices Festivals, and the Progonus Theater. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to present to you Peggy Robles-Alvarado.
Hey! Yay, yay, yay. I feel all your energy coming through the screen. Thank you, thank you, thank you, David. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Great Weather for Media. I am indebted to y'all. I really, really, really love Great Weather for Media and everything it does for the world of poetry and prose. So from my reading, I know we have 8 minutes, and I tried to time this to a T because, you know, Thomas has taught me to do this well. But I'm just gonna go straight through, y'all. So I'm doing something kind of experimental. I created this very short mini kind of experience, 8 minutes long, full of poems. So let's get into it. When asked to perform for Hispanic Heritage Month, I hear, when you come, be sure to trill the R's in your last name. Use words like café con leche, caramelo, trigueño, but not negro. Please don't make us say Latinx. Tell us about being a teen mom. Tell us about your drug dealing cousins. Don't tell us about being the first to go to college. Don't mention you work 3 jobs. Don't mention you had your own apartment at 17. Tell us funny stories about owning plastic covered sofas. Tell us about WIC checks and EBT cards. Can you wear your native costume? Can you dress in the colors of your flag? Can you code switch for authenticity? Can you have us all say, huepa? Can you be spicy but not too hot? Do you have any stories about making sancocho on a budget? Tell us about the first time your cousin saw snow. Don't tell us your father was a US citizen. Don't tell us how he retired with 2 full pensions. Tell us how he pulled himself up by the bootstraps. Tell us how he was running numbers when he met your mom. Don't tell us how your mother refused to be on public assistance. Don't tell us how she almost miscarried after pressing the foot pedal of a sewing machine for too many hours without a lunch break. Tell us about your mom learning English in a church basement. Tell us how you learned to speak American in an English-only class. Can you have us all say curse words that make us laugh? Can you speak loud enough to engage the audience, but not too loud to sound threatening? Can you smile for the funders? Can you wave for the department chair? Can you hold that grin for the photo? Can you just smile? Can you smile? Can you park those lips and cover those teeth so if anyone asks, we can say, look, she liked it. She liked it. They like it. They think we like it. They tell us to like it. They want us to like it. They want us to lie. They want us to eat their lies, like 4-6, 4-5. Hurricane Maria took many more lives, more than just 4-6, 4-5, more than just hashtag 4-6, 4-5, 4-6, 4-5, 4-6, 4-5. We are here today. 4, the names of those who died alone. 6, feet under rubble and rooftop. 4 weeks, Maria split throat of the horizon. 5 categories. She chose the deadliest. 4-6, 4-5. 40,000 relocated to Florida. 673 schools vacant, left. 4, those in agony to rebuild. 5, government officials mocked El Pueblo on WhatsApp. 4-6, 4-5, 4-6, 4-5. 46 president threw paper towels, approved 60. The tax-free act to attract vultures. 4,000 more Airbnb displaced communities. 5 more years of government neglect. 4-6, 4-5, 4-6. 4-5, 44-year-old power plants failing. $6 million homes try to privatize beaches. 400 protesters fill Calle Fortaleza. 5 years knowing 4-6, 4-5 is a lie. 4-6, 4-5 is a lie. 4-6, 4-5 is a lie, a lie, a lie, alive. I wish Papi was still alive. Alive. Sometimes I feel him alive. Sometimes I call him back alive. I lie. To me, I lie. This too is a lie. I want to bring him back, burn him back, burn him back, burn me back. Papi's death was a downed power line. On an island, I tried to candle with breath, tried to resuscitate heart with words screaming into empty palms, tried to kindle his flame with waterlogged match and empty fuel barrel. Where can I find his spark now? I got no fuel left, nothing to tender his ash and burn mark. Just this how, like the winds that follow the eye of a storm approaching my door each time I think grief has receded. Water has always been my savior, but now I summon the rage of a burning thing. A burning thing that isn't just me. I need the flash of lightning that can reignite a nervous system into normal. Need the gunpowder and smoke of a current that can scorch him back to me. Please burn me back. Bring him closer. Set a blaze so I can remember his warmth. I've been told too much fire can hurt, but this agony be a firewall I'm willing to breach. This aftermath be hot coal I'm willing to drag torso over. So let these hands scar, if it means I get to greet him once more. The flash of his smile once more. Let my body of water dissipate into mist over mountain, if it means he comes to me, luminous, like that one star, that one light bulb that flashes on and off all night after a hurricane. A light on and off, my mouth open, close, candled, then darken, inhale, exhale. Need the breath to tell stories and rewrite lies. Need to breathe, do I lie? Mommy tells me I should lie, or lie down, or lie back, stay still, stop telling lies as truth, or the truth when it's a lie. A lie is so much easier. The truth be too hard. Truth too hard to tell, retell, remember, cállate, be quiet. Some truths should be lies. Some truths should never be told. Mommy is the unwilling muse of truth that should never be told. Mommy is a banned book I'm forbidden to read. I titled it Pages of Life Ruptured, or Woman Interrupted, or Daughter of Good Woman and un sucio, earmarked for grave upon her burial. She prefers open casket to open mouth, her tongue where history has died, her hands tight to its neck in case resurrection is promised. In her version, Abuelo's roaming fingers were a bad habit of dementia. His taking of young girls, consent. The abandoning of bastard children throughout the island and in Santiago, holidays. Some stories were never meant to be told, she grunts. Rewrites our memory, dresses it in pastel Sunday church colors, even as they bleed out over Friday night glasses of whiskey neat. Proper, that's more her style. Uses a hardcore stare and sucking of teeth to signal my pen back into purse. Her eyes drain the battery of laptops. Crush pages of journals between fistfuls of hair. Cuenta cuento, tell those tales, atrévete. Sounds like, I love you, right? Sounds like, I believe you, right? Sounds like words burning entre la espada, la pared, and my chest. If a story is told in an empty campo, does it make a sound? If my story becomes empty forest, should I make a sound? If Cousin Lila's underwear were torn like fuego en el campo, should she make a sound into story to tell? Mommy silences forest fire where fertile soil still burns. When I ask if she's ignited in all her stories, she replies, sigue echando leña al fuego, te vas a quemar. You will burn. I stoke the fire and she sacrifices truth to it. We curse Abuelo's photo, threaten his edges with a lighter. A good daughter is a daddy's girl who redlines her father's narrative. Abuser becomes caballero. Predator becomes enamorado. Familia becomes accomplice. Mommy becomes unwilling ghostwriter, willing to save face. I'm forbidden to visit his grave. She knows bones too can be read. Bones can be read. Bones survive hurricanes. Bones don't smile. Bones don't lie. Bones are all I have left. Thank you, Great Weather for Media. That's my time. And thank you to my fellow writers. I can't wait to hear y'all.
Peggy Robles-Alvarado. Thank you, Peggy. E.J. Antonio has received fellowships in poetry from the New York Foundation for the Arts, the Hurston Wright Foundation, and the Cave Canem Foundation. She is the author of 2 chapbooks, Every Child Knows, Premier Poets Chapbook Series, and Solstice, Red Glass Books. EJ is a founding member of the Jazz and Poetry Choir Collective and a founding board member of One Breath Rising, a nonprofit arts organization. Her CD, Rituals in the Marrow, Recipe for a Jam Session, was released in 2010. EJ Antonio.
Thank you, everyone. First, I want to thank Great Weather for Media for including me in this year's anthology, Arriving at the Shoreline. It's a really wonderful journal, and I hope everybody out there has had a chance to read it. And if you don't have it, order it from Great Weather for Media. So I'm going to start with the poem that I have in the journal, and it's called Snow. This white blanket conquers everything darker than alabaster clouds. Snow, unlike so many invading conquerors, it disappears, quickly leaves no remains, no scrolls to glorify its past conquest. On reading Nathaniel Mackey's interview in the New Yorker magazine, spring forms its chorus of misfits. Red tulips, white flowering pear tree, pink double cherry blossom trees, the newly green willow tree in the park swaying in the breeze. Rewrite the beginning. The first line is too light. No, me, I'm too literal. Can't see the alternate universes of spring. What stops me? He clearly hears their music, imagines himself exploring the valleys, rolling hills, swimming in the chlorophyll rivers of their flora. What stops me? Improvisation is the highest form of creative. If I can follow the dips and rolls of jazz, what stops me from entering the unseen? Start over, improvise. Tulips draw red wine from terror, hum drunken songs in the wind. Virginal pear trees show off in pure white, beckoning sinners and saints to war over who will save purity and revel in its conquest. Double cherry blossom trees show how the deep pink tint of menstruation is a powerful lure, a beautiful balm for healer and wounded alike. And what of the willow tree? It sees nothing, feels nothing as it sweeps the air clean of regret. He hears the avant-garde tucked in the creases of normal. What stops me from exploring a jazz rarely heard? Start over, improvise. I've walked on the red wine tundra of tulip petals. Its siren song is a sorrow I can dance to, and I'm carrying its blues to the white sand dunes of flowering pear. Prickly to the touch, I'm watching them shift, trying to trap me. I'm carrying the blues and its bossa nova two-step over cherry blossom, deep red estuaries, too hot to tame. I'm still dancing, I'm still dancing, carrying the blues and thorns when I reach the other sides. And the cool neon green willow claims my bounty for the altar of its arms and cocoons me in its canopy to contemplate my journey, reimagined the unanswered questions. Start over, improvise, improvise. When the karaoke machine stopped, she was a chanteuse, her voice cloaked in burnt lilac, petals dried, framed, hung on a wall over the fireplace. She was a fan in her own fan club of misfit and genius, loved by everyone and no one. She was a rose, pressed in the family Bible, occasionally opened to lift her spirit on a Friday night. Her voice became a butterfly, gliding on wind currents to escape Earth's boundaries, gliding to search the rainbow beyond her kitchen window for the audience soundtrack that used to applaud her high notes of fantasy. I gave my hair to the rivers. My sisters gave theirs to the oceans. The lakes harvested all we'd given and gave it to the sun. The sun melted it into a fine alabaster and obsidian thread and gave it to the moon. And the moon wove it into an orb of dandelion and goldenrod fields. Food to make us strong, to carry us over the canyons of doubt. The volcanoes left us the ashes of resistance, taught us to dance in the rain, birth corn and flower from the dust, grow lilac, rose, lily, to build altars of praise, regrow our hair into a web to catch the soil, sit quiet in our power to hold the earth together when the men go to war. Amazing grace. Someone sang for me. From behind her teeth, the sound of blood's rush called me from myself into myself, a body, an earth song of love and bitterness. Someone sang for me, amazing grace. How sweet, 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 sweet. Someone sang for me deep in Virginia pines. A hymn razored the sky vermilion, pushed the wind to shove me down a snake-filled road, fighting for my life. Someone sang for me, someone sang for me, someone sang for me. Pulled all my am and am not from origin's darkest beginnings. Melody flowed through me, planted itself in me, pulled all my am and am not from origin's darkest beginnings. Melody flowed through me, planted itself in me. I heard a soprano rustling leaves in my ear. Amazing grace. Someone sang for me, rattled the question in my voice, shook loose words from my hands, the pine cones buried in Virginia woods. I've always known someone sang for me, and the oaks shivered agreement, sacrificed their pulp for me, to write down all the songs someone sang for me, to write down all the songs someone sang for me. Amazing grace, how sweet, 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 sweet the sound somebody sang for me, as I will sing for her, the someone of me coming after me. I am rooted. I am rooted. I am rooted in the sounds of my past, years pushed into silence, a cascading rain of rhythms swallowing me up fast, like a tasty meal on East and West Harlem streets. Me, a flightless bird, thin, gawky-limbed fledgling, trying to find balance between the music perched on every corner. Gospel, the blues, rhythms, and more blues, sharing space with bachata, salsa, mambo, rumba. How have I managed to walk the high wire between infant and elder when these sounds twist me, shift me back and forth, throw me into girl-child memories every year? I am anchored in an unscalable tide, roaring mute echoes of my dreams deferred so often through decades, they faded into the frayed edges of old photographs, blurred, almost forgotten, as midnight and New Orleans fleur-de-lis descends, unfurling me into another 365 days of new arias waiting to bloom. I breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, my ever swelling past, because someone sang for me. Amazing grace, how sweet, sweet, sweet the sound. Thank you.
E.J. Antonio, everybody. And I love the backdrop so much. I love that painting. I have to say it every time. So New York has helped launch us, and now it's time to cross the ocean. Joolz Sparks is a North London-based writer. Her short stories appeared in Great Weather for Media's Escape Wheel and the Loose Muse anthology of women's writing, and her poems are published widely in magazines and anthologies. She is co-author of the joint poetry collection London Undercurrents from Holland Park Press, which gives voice to London's unsung heroines north and south of the river over many centuries. Her forthcoming pamphlet will be published by Against the Grain Poetry Press. Joolz is a member of the writers collective Malika's Poetry Kitchen. And now let's welcome Joolz Sparks.
Thank you so much. Hey, I'm so pleased to be here. It's 9 o'clock in the evening in London, and things are pretty shit, really. So am I allowed to say that? Sorry. But I am so grateful, so unbelievably grateful for wonderful Great Weather for Media and for wonderful writers. We need writing in the world. We need creative people to see us through these times and through the winter as well. So if you haven't bought this, buy a copy and take home a piece of magic, piece of sparkly dust, magic dust to see you through the dark winter evenings. I'm going to read for you a bit of my short story. A bonkers short story, I call it, slightly mad, really. And it came from, so it's called How Our Fortune Tamer Learnt to Fly a Paper Aeroplane. And a fortune tamer came from a poetry workshop that I was doing. We were given 2 pieces of paper, each had a profession on it. So I had lion tamer and I had a fortune teller, and you had to mix it together. So a fortune tamer came out. And then you were supposed to write a poem But the fortune tamer just flew out of my pen as a fully formed character in a short story, and the other characters followed on as well. And I could not tame the fortune tamer and his characters. And I'm really glad that it turned into a short story. Who would need what is a fortune tamer? Who would need it? You know, the 1%? The people who buy Twitter? Who needs it? So I'm going to read a little bit of it for you. How our fortune tamer learnt to fly a paper aeroplane. It wasn't until our fortune tamer had taken that first bite into a bruised crabapple, which had fallen into thick, wet grass from the tree outside his office window, that we realized he wanted to bite all the crabapples in the world ever. Subsequently, the meeting went far slower than either my husband or myself could ever have anticipated. By shouting at our fortune tamer through the open window, my husband and I had tried to ascertain a ballpark estimation of when to expect him to return to his desk and to continue our discussion. But we couldn't hear his replies properly through the heavy mouthfuls of pulped fruit he was munching. And anyway, we had felt terribly guilty, even just being there in the first place. How embarrassing to have to employ the services of a fortune tamer. I mean, us, of all people. But you see, we'd recently been left a fortune by elderly relatives we didn't even know existed, which, when added to our own considerable wealth, meant that we had a much greater fortune than any other couple of the same age in our postcode area. Apparently, this is a crime, and it meant that we required the services of a fortune tamer. Otherwise, we'd be in trouble with the police and could face a 3-year prison sentence. What a nightmare. It wasn't our fault we'd been bequeathed riches beyond the poorest person's wildest dream. But as my husband always reminds me, the law is the law. So off we'd rushed to get to the phone directory to find the nearest fortune tamer. And to our surprise, there were 70 in our postcode area alone. 60 of them didn't answer their phone. The next 3 had gone on holiday, 2 had ceased trading. So when the final one actually answered his phone, we shrieked, "Help!" into the receiver at the top of our lungs. "Help us! We're in danger of being sent to prison. Please, please, please help us tame our fortune." We'd yelled at him. I believe I may have cried and thrashed against our sideboard, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, thank goodness, Mr. Fortescue, the fortune tamer, Bob to his friends, had calmed us down immediately with a reassuring tone. "Never you fear," he'd said. "No one leaves my premises without their fortune being significantly tamed." And he swiftly arranged a meeting at his office for the very next day. Off we'd gone at 10 a.m. precisely the next morning and met him in his dingy little room on the ground floor of a tenement building in that part of town we never ever go to. He'd been delightfully helpful to begin with. That is, until we told him how much money we had. Then up it got and had started wasting our time by eating crab apples. All we could do was sit there and watch him dance on tiptoes, his brown brogues wet with dew and green with grass stains, grabbing at branches and shaking the tree until the fruit fell willy-nilly, and we were quite sick with anger. Down he kept diving onto all fours and nibbling fallen fruit with a ferocity that, to be honest, would have been quite frightening if we hadn't been so angry. My husband and I were minutes from leaving and slamming the door with a "And you can say goodbye to your fee, you silly man," yelled behind us. But we suddenly thought that maybe he could charge us anyway just for sitting and watching him eat crab apples, in which case we'd already clocked up a few £1,000s. So we thought we might as well sit it out until he'd finished eating. Mr. Fortescue, Bob to his friends, had finally hoisted himself back in over the windowsill, plumped himself down onto his chair, wiped his hands on his trousers and opened our file. My husband had started to reprimand him in that delightfully authoritative way of his. "Now look here," he'd begun, and had started to roll up his sleeves as if to give the fortune tamer a damn good trouncing. But Mr. Fortescue, Bob, whatever, had held up a hand to stop him, then without an apology or an explanation, had immediately turned to the case in hand, expertly making sense of all the numbers, ascertaining the relevant facts and figures. He then quickly worked out a plan for us to follow over the next financial year that would set us well within the law. He'd given us the necessary paperwork, plus his bill, processed our credit card and payment, then he'd unceremoniously kicked us out of his office. Well, really, we'd said to each other. And my husband had given me that look of his that says, you and I, my darling, are far more brilliant and important than anyone could ever be. That look of his always turns me on. So I'd kissed him wildly, open-mouthed in the middle of the street, and then we'd gone for a celebratory glass of champers, toasting to the sky that, hurrah, our fortune was in the very process of being tamed and that we would be spared a prison sentence. It was just as we clicked glasses from our 5th bottle of bubbly that the phone call had come. And I'm going to leave it there. If you'd like to know what happens, does the fortune remain tamed? How does the fortune tamer fly an aeroplane? Who gets put in prison for fraud? And whose boots get vomited on? Then I'm afraid you're going to have to buy the book and read the rest of the story. Thank you so much for having me and listen to my mad short story. And hooray for writing in all its various forms and voices. Oh, I love that we've all got such different voices. Thank you very much.
And hooray for Juolz Sparks. And don't you want to find out what happens? Come on, give in to our beautiful book. And you're starting to get a sense of what an awesome mix. But we're not even halfway in, I don't think. So we need to keep going. All right, fair enough. Here we go. Moving south from there. John Chinaka Onyeche is a husband, father, and poet from Nigeria. He writes from the city of Port Harcourt, Rivers State, and is currently a student of history and diplomatic studies at Ignatius Ajuru University of Education. His work can be found at Ethel, Acumen, Spillwords, Melbourne Culture Corner, Nonoko Stories, Brittle Paper, Nymphs, Open Door Magazine, Fevers of the Mind, Most Oa Tonya Review, and many others. But right now we're going to hear live from John Chinaka Onyeche. Take yourself off mute.
Hello, good evening from Nigeria. Good evening. All right. Okay. This is my first time reading my work on live stream like this. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I love this. Thank you, David. I'm grateful for this. All right. Lately, there has been a kind of trouble in Nigeria, and there are some group of kind of secession movement going on. You know, if you have heard of Nigeria history before now, there has been war between the Biafrans and the Nigeria, and this story is being told one-sided, okay? Because they thought that Biafra is an Igbo thing. Igbo is is one of the major tribes in Nigeria. We have the Hausas, the Yorubas, and the Igbos. And they thought the Igbos struggling to move out from Nigeria is a kind of, one-sided story. They're telling you that Igbos are bad, Igbos are this, Igbos are that. But if you go out today, in every part of the world, you will see the Igbos there. So some time ago, a man called Nnamdi Kanu started up the movement again. And to me, as a history student, I think what he's going for is right. He's right of the people. So he's speaking for the people. So one of the days after a mass killing of the Nigeria youth during October 2020, I came up like, and the government of Nigeria was asking that they want to restructure the system and they want to, better things. But at the end of the day, nothing is happening. So I came up to write a poem, which I titled Biafra, Igbo, or a country at heart. If you've come across any Igbo tribe from anywhere, from Igbo, if you ask them, every one of them have Biafra at heart, no matter where they find themselves. So, like myself, my father fought for the Biafran soldiers, so I am equally a Biafran. Even in the history classes, my lecturer would ask, who amongst you here still identify with Biafra? I raised my hand up that yes, I'm still one of the Biafrans. So here I have a poem that I wrote for the Biafrans. I read, how do I say that I want freedom from the colonial creation and still dance in their instituted gathering, church? And how do I fight against colonialism when I dance my masquerade on their Christmas Day celebration, forgetting the days of our festivals? How do I say that I want Biafra when Nigeria still feeds me with a sense of restructuring because I wanted to return home? For I was a Biafra before they came, and still I moved around with your flags hung around my neck. It's just a simple poem that I believe if you take your time to go through it, you know that I am telling you that Biafra is all in our heart, and we wish that Biafra will come one day. We are fighting for it. We believe it is in our heart. We keep working towards it. We keep studying the history, because if you don't study your history, you are a lost person in this planet. So that is why I think this poem, giving it a home for here, I am so much glad in life. I am happy seeing it being read here tonight. I'm so much happy. Thank you so much.
John, you could read up to 8 minutes, don't you?
Okay, yeah, okay. I have, this is my collection as well.
Yeah, let's hear a couple of those.
Okay, this is my name. All right, this was published by Dumpster Fire Press. Okay, so I'm going to read some of my poems here. Okay, I'm going to read Broken Muse Talks. Sorry. Broken Muse Talks. You can find these pieces on Spearword. Spearword published it for me, okay? Now I said, if I could have grown wings, I would have loved to be like the mighty winged king, the bird of higher soars. Upon the side of the high hill, hiding away from predators, those that hunt me like fox, but foes in disguise killing. The little light of the day, the one they will imagine, they seek to draw me down, not soar as my call. If I could have been a bird, I would have loved to be likened to the eagle, more fullness to resurrect again, because I am dying off in silence and oblivion, where darkness is light and light is chased after. I have another one, Marriage Hour. You can find this on Acumen UK. Okay. Marriage hour. Unveil this veil. Tell me what it is that you haven't said to me before. Yes, I do. I do. Unveil this veil. It has lingered for many days and hours now, hung till death to us part. Remembering our love like tender lilies that grows by the riverside, together forever until death do us part. Unveil this veil, listening to the words of promises and vows we vowed. Men and angels bears us witness. Amen and amen. We are now one. Afterlife. Blackness as the sun and the darkness is beauty, for it ushers in daylight. I long to be dark-skinned, even in my afterlife. In my afterlife, I was amazed by the fact that the angel who echoed my name from the book of life was dark-skinned, different from what I am after. Life after with Africa, there is a hope for my black skin in the city of gold, not made with hands. When this racist dream is over, please wake me up in the eternal oblivion that I am still an African, by the way, as God has made me afterlife. Tell me who sits at the seat of power, that even in my afterlife, the township of my town is as gentle as the heaven raised upward. In my afterlife, I am Africa. In my afterlife, I am black. In my afterlife, I am beauty. In my afterlife, I am original. In my afterlife, I represent the earth. Don't paint me this color. Don't paint me this color. Neither inscribe the name. The dream that never thrives on this agriculture produce, but lives in the messes of foreign plants, homeland lays west out of fear. How could you possibly paint white as a symbol of peace, and daily I am chastised angrily by men on my many uniforms as either an animal or a venom, ready to be annihilated with a weapon, vomiting fires I die, rising the symbol they never honor as they preach to us, the nation flag of this country. Do not paint me this color. The land has ceased being green, and the forest there emerged wailings of men, women, and children who went out to keep the green forest fit to feed us. Their blood flown, and then red becomes grasses. Well, engulf her, whose name is Nigeria, and her color green, and white turned horror, even in the eyes of the unborn. When I will become like the birds of the skies, I will grow wings, strong, fly away with wings, for there lies what I am. When I will become like the butterflies at the garden, away on the net cocoons, amidst the earth's cacophone and dying airs. When I will become like the shell that housed on earth, though needs a cracked heat, before it goodies are seen, as beautiful and appealing. Help me to find you within. You, the still little voice in me that whispers peace, isn't her that are entangled from the chaos of earth, nothing worth voluntarily, picking out that which I am not. Your portrait, hang it up there. It is an edifice to behold, like the black diamond. It hung on the wall end. Who crafted this? I could be for a contest with the goddess that you have taken time to array yourself this way, dangling on your neck, the precious stones, lines up, beads of choice gold from the ancient world. You adorn yourself like the sun goddess. In the hearts of the gods and the astronomers' eyes, seize the portrait hang on. Tonight, give me a remembrance of you, the highest gift of all, your portrait. Do I still have the time?
We're just about we're just about at time, I think. But if there's something you want, if you have a little something there to cap it off.
All right. Now, let me talk now on the poem here. Let me talk about the poem here. Still on the story, still on this.
Arriving
Okay.
at Shoreline, yes.
Yes. To every Igbo out there who has not been able to see reason to support Nnamdi Kanu on the struggle of regaining Biafra, I think this poem is for you. You need to read this poem because the restructuring they are promising us is not what we are seeing. The Nigeria of yesterday is not Nigeria of today. Things are going bad. Honestly, things are going bad. So if you are in Nigeria out there, if you are Biafra out there, embrace Biafra now. Let's regain our country. That is all I have to say for now. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, making his Zoom poetry debut, John Chinaka Onyeche. One of two Nigerian contributors to this year's book. And I think either last year or 2 years ago, we had two Nigerian contributors in that book. So there is a lot of passion, especially for poetry in Nigeria. And Nigeria, keep it coming. Thank you again, John. And we're going to move on now to another country. Although this reader is also a New Yorker. Sophie Malleret is a bilingual writer and performer based in New York City and Paris. I told you. She has read her poetry at venues and festivals in the United States, France, Prague, Rotterdam, Berlin, Brussels, and England. Her work can be found in Block, Matinal, and Art in Odd Places. Sophie is also active in film and theater as an actor, producer, and writer. Sophie's documentary about a community garden in New York was screened at the 2021 Short Doc Festival in Paris, and I saw it too, and it was a little gem. Sophie Malleret. Take yourself off mute, Sophie.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Sorry. Good. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, David. Thank you to Great Weather for Media for including me in the new anthology. And thank you for all the readers tonight. Because this is the poem from the anthology. Chocolate mustache around the children's mouth. Mine looks like I just swallowed a tiger. Tail on my face, sweating tiger, drives you somersaults. Revolving doors, revolver. Empty bullet went through tiger skin on couch. Veranda screams, sing-song hummingbirds, whisper dark circle on the roof of the house. Nothing's left from your mama and your papa's forks and knives, not even your baby spoon, nor the baby tiger they saved. We ran from the beach, our laces tied to your wishes, turn on water hose in garden, let the Niagara Falls splash all over the children's bodies and ours. Shining in sunset, the children's arms and legs golden like the tiger's back, and all the tales you used to tell your mama on Christmas Day. She liked snow and wanted once, just once, to taste snow on her lips for Christmas. You used to walk the streets of New York wearing just a thin coat and a shirt, no hat, no gloves. Gin and tonic would keep you warm from November till March. I ran up the path to the cellar where we used to hide our treasures and all the cats from our treasure hunts. Now the children run faster than I can. Say who? Jesus. Now the children run faster than I can say hoop. They joke about anything. Everything smells of summer. I cover my face with triple layers of sunscreen. You make fun of me in the way only you ever did. I pave the alley with broken glass. We throw at each other when the living got tough. Tiger's nails all night out. My brain would explode. You want me to hold yours in the palm of my eyes. All I could hold was a tiger. Maybe the children remember you. Once a year, we talk about you. I haven't told them. Your ghost still shuns me at night. I shrink every time something breaks. The kettle whistles, or I see flames. I haven't told them. From the window, I see your shadow grow in garden starlight, where the rose bushes draw a question mark. And this is an older poem, and sorry, and this is from friends and two friends in Ukraine. Dream of a man, top of his head blue, walking a leash with no dog, leash with imaginary dog. Woman on her knees with yellow tangerine skirt, washing, sweeping, scrubbing, white kitchen tiles with orange peel, making house pristine for her friend's birthday. She's wearing her best dress, and a white apron, a scarf on her head, the color of dreams rising from the moon. Le matin, quand tu ne sais plus ce que les mots sans consonne veulent dire, tu ne te souviens plus des mots sans consonne. Rain has washed off the blood of her man on her wedding dress, hanging in closet, dancing with spider webs. A German officer is greeting a mockingbird strolling the river in the palm of a leaf. It springs, he thinks, whistling. It's spring one more time, one more year. Demain, il fera nuit. We will see another cold winter. Will we see another cold winter? Another snowstorm, another frozen river. Or is it the last cold February we had till the end, dance of kisses? They forgot to learn a foreign language when they were young. Now it's too late. Their brains can't remember words no more. A Ukrainian poet throws words into the mic, beating rhythm with his hand crooked in cadence. Il jouit avec mes oreilles, tente le tapis volant, parle de fromage, de femmes qui pleurent et se cachent dans le fond de sa mémoire. Ou c'est moi qui invente tout. Oui, c'est moi, j'invente tout. There is no room trying to hide, no flying carpet. It's me and the Ukrainian poet and me, listening to verses with no blood in the title. The music stopped in the clouds, trees, poppy buds. It's a quiet world. The gunmen all start smoking again. They're all out on a break, cigarette break. They stop killing people for 3 minutes, a cigarette break. In no time, there'll be chain smoking and there'll be no more people dying. Maybe. The sniper missed my friend standing with his camera at Maidan. The Ukrainian revolution, he aims for my friend's forehead, shoots, get the camera, I instead. Camera explode, ricochet of second bullet gets his arm, my friend's arm. He falls, he's saved. He falls, he lives. Only injury to his arm. Today, my friend shoots, film again. C'est l'an 3000. Il n'y a plus d'hommes sur terre, il n'y a plus d'hommes nulle part, pour collecter testament des choses qui ne sont plus. Les mouchoirs solitaires marchent dans des chemins qui ne mènent nulle part. Le nulle part n'est même plus un concept. They wave at each other in sunshine. They hope echo will answer them. And someone's name will show up in the sky and speak, talk back to silence and black moon. I realized there is a lot of French. I don't know if, God, I can't see anybody anymore. I don't know if you would want the translation, or I guess maybe it doesn't make any sense at this point. What do you think? Don't know.
The French was wonderful.
Okay.
I think you can move on.
Okay, I'll move on. Midnight floating back to time in between, hours lost, span hung by a wire on the old telephone from across town to across continents to across skin untouched, singing from mouth to lips, your kisses went unchained. I feel you in my spine, in my neck. What is the sound of love, of I miss you, jumping from one window to the next? Is there a window out there with you in it, where you speak in foreign tongues, the language of wild mammals and snow, playing the accordion in different keys? A writer ate the manuscript he dreamed the night before. Siberia has a taste of adventure, she thought, looking at a map upside down inside his mouth. His eyes had roads going all the way to Vladivostok, 2 days, no night, to sunsets, no end, to his name, no sleep. You'll catch her. How do you miss her? You will catch me, you will find me, balancing on your name. Growing roots for cabins, little houses, shacks for the unborn between you and me. Nothing born from an hour on the telephone, he said. Nothing born, twilighting the afternoon table, where they carved their names, chipped away, all the way to the day they say goodbye. Echoes of evenings, nights, traveling alone, in rain, clouds, heavy skies. I will fill you in mist, drizzle, morning haze. I will invent, draw, paint, sculpt, build words, where you and I meet with bluebird on twirling iron balconies, forever covered in sand. I will invent worlds, you will come. I think this is
Is that it?
This is my time. Yes, I think it's my time, no?
Okay. I was mesmerized by you, so I lost all track of time. But folks, Sophie Malleret.
Thank you.
Sophie, come back to New York soon. We miss you.
I miss you too. All of you.
Okay. Originally from Wrexham, North Wales, Roddy Williams now lives with his husband in London. His poetry has appeared in Obsessed with Pipework, Stand, Magma, Poetry Wales, Envoy, The Rialto, The North, and other magazines and anthologies around the globe. He holds a BA honorary degree in illustration and is a keen surrealist photographer, printmaker, and portrait painter. And right now, he's a reader. Take yourself off mute, Roddy Williams.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Hello, thank you. Can you hear me? Good. I'm being cursed by technology, and I apologize for my late arrival. That was part of it. Had terrible connection problems, and then Zoom decided it needed an update. So I think I'm being cursed by the god of delays, but I have to agree with Joolz in that the UK has become a third world country now, and that's probably part of it. So thank you. I'm Roddy Williams, and I better get on with it. This is something I performed at the Poetry Cafe at another great Weather for Media launch, and it caused a bit of controversy because there was an actual Bill in the audience and there was a Sean, and it caused kind of arguments after the performance. This is called Men's Names. All men called Tim are gay. All men called Ted are shamans. All men called Brian have a small tattooed lion on their arm, and they're calm, not like Darren's and Raymond's. All men called Bill think they're mentally ill. Nigels have sensitive souls. All men called Sean are psychotic or dull. All men called Dave have a car and a secret. Trevors have longings to travel to Hull. All men called Tom have bad musical taste. Some men called Paul aren't called Paul at all. They're just Keiths who are scared to admit that they're Keiths and write, Paul, my name's Paul, when they can on a wall, any wall, the side of a house or a lavatory stall. All men called James have large teeth and grin wildly. All men called Ronald are small and swear mildly. All men called Brad are a little bit mad. All men called Lee are just darlings. Peter's a peaceable, punctual folk. Eric's like judo and strangling starlings. Barry's habitually smoked Marlboro lights. Harry's will come to the office in tights. Bismarcks are rare, but they have ginger hair, and they never know where to sit on a plane. They have problems with people and spaces and heights, and will hum Voodoo Nation throughout the emergency drill demonstration. Clives are all tall, and they're no fun at all, and they blush if they hear the phrase deep penetration. Yes. This next one is a bit more serious, I suppose. This was published in an issue of The Stand a couple of years ago, and it's called February. The streets were filled with frozen random words, snatched to ice the moment they left warm mouths, before they could reach ears or mobile phones. I picked them up and put them in my bag. One thawed on a bus, a man shouting, "Tench!" Another was a whisper that skittered over the pavement in front of my house. It was a woman. I think she said, "Ralph," in a tone suggesting he was long gone. The last I left on the kitchen table, sloughing off breaths that heaved themselves to sound. Then there was a crack, and the word was born quite slowly, like a moth, emerging soft into the world, new, waiting for meaning. I'm Welsh, so I've lived in London a long time, and my accent kind of comes and goes. Usually, if I'm singing or if I'm angry, I go quite Tom Jones. So apologise in advance to those who might find this a little bit disturbing. Take your coat off. You won't feel the benefit when you go out. I'm telling you now, you'll be starved by the time you get to the gate. Starved like a post. How many sugars? You might as well have one. You've taken your coat off. You'd best slip your shoes off as well. They're all muddy. I know it could hear it. I rattle the roof like a man at the door. After money and time, it was bouncing down earlier. Just leave them there with my sack of regret and my box of old anecdotes. Might get them out if it carries on bouncing. I think there's some cake there. You might as well have some. I can't eat it all. If I don't, it will all have to go to the foxes. You wouldn't want that, to fox at your cake. I've got time in the fridge and it needs to be used. Well, past its sell-by date. We might as well use it. Now give me that coat. David said I'm an artist, or I used to be an illustrator, but I've been doing a lot of portraits, especially since COVID and lockdown. I got through about 40 portraits, and 3 of them were part of a campaign to paint portraits for frontline NHS workers. So I did a few of those. But these 2 were written at different times, and I find it interesting. They have they share imagery, like poetry DNA in a sense. This one's called Digital Portrait. I am composing you, stroking your face into life with light and electricity, a process of continual adjustment, pulling this thing of luminosity and shadow to a mold that fits, where your eyes wriggle like bottoms on a bench into their correct and balanced places. Your face is a welcome cuckoo, drawn to my binary nest, and it is I whose face has changed, continues to do so. I save you, keep you from growing older, splinter your face across the globe. You become a mask for continents, worn in the space between oceans. And this next one is actually the piece from Arriving at a Shoreline. And this was written around the time when I handed a portrait over to a doctor from Great Ormond Street who got a free portrait just as a sort of reward for being a NHS frontline worker. And it's called Masks. I am bearing a painted face across the city while wearing a mask. Painted face is swathed in bubble wrap, prompting irrational thoughts that she may smother under hers. I am to, to unite the face with its owner, whom I now meet in a park near Russell Square. She is wearing a mask and has brought coffee and cake. We unmask for the coffee, and she unwraps her other face, quite coincidentally, although perhaps it isn't. And sometimes I find you sort of hear things and that they just turn into poems instantly, simply because they carry on in your head. And there were two girls on the London Tube who were sort of joking with each other, and the whole thing kind of carried on in my head after they got off the train. It's called Two Girls on the Tube. You know your mum is going to get old and lose her teeth, and she'll have to come live with you. Shut up! You'll have to put her shoes on for her and talk about the olden days when there were no phones. Shut up! And you'll have to chew her food and pass it from your mouth to her mouth like she's a baby bird. Shut up! She could have false teeth, but then you'd have to scrub them clean twice a day, even if they've been in the dishwasher. Oh my day, shut up! Called Flathead. He has the flattest head of anyone I know, flatter than Norfolk, flatter than yesterday's ginger beer, or the voice of a drunken butcher singing Goldfinger to the night. Things can settle on it without rolling off like leaves or fag ends, loose change, random thoughts, snow, cake, volcanic dust. One could iron serviettes or handkerchiefs on such a head, or rest a large Bible during sermons, while reading dire and terrifying threats of hell in punishment for random sundry sins. And if one upends him on an icy lake, he slides like a blue-honed stone to curl majestically over the far hog line, to everyone's surprise and cold-footed delight. And finally, I'm in with one of my odes. I studied years ago, I started writing odes to celebrities, and I've got a host of bunches. This is called Ode to Jason Statham. I love you, Jason Statham. You're the perfect man for me. I'd love you to pop round and sort me out on my settee. I think the weight will take it, but we'll have to watch the stitching. If not, I'll get the lilo out and stick it in the kitchen. That's me.
That's Roddy Williams. Thank you, Roddy. Whew. Well, now it's time to swing the internet tube out towards the West Coast. William Taylor Jr. lives and writes in San Francisco. He is the author of numerous books of poetry and a volume of fiction. His work has been widely published in journals across the globe, including Rattle, New York Quarterly, and Chiron Review. He is a 5-time Pushcart Prize nominee and was a recipient of a 2013 Kathy Acker Award. He edited Cocky Moon, selected poems of Jack Michelin, Zeitgeist Press 2014, Pretty Things to Say, 6 Foot Swells Press 2020. Oh, that's I read that poorly. That's Bill's latest collection of poetry. Let me get out of the way. It's time for William Taylor.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you, David and Jane, for having me. This is called Like the Rest of Us. Sometimes I get mad when people stop being beautiful, even if it's mostly not their fault. You can only go on for so long, I know, no matter how tough you think you are. What with time and death and the general sorrow and badness of a life chewing at you night and day. Some folks have a good run, sure, but still I'm sad when they eventually fail and falter and become like the rest of us. I want the aging rock star to bust out with one more brilliant record, the old novelist to find his way through one more book that burns and wails and tells the terrible truth of things. I want the poet on his deathbed to scrawl one last line that will save me in the way I can't save myself. This is called, It's a World Full of Tourists Ordering Complicated Drinks. And our lives are just an awkward silence beneath a Tipperary sun. Stillborn moments caught in the air like mists. And they wonder why we don't want to get up in the mornings. You can turn on your computer day or night and become friends with everybody in the world all at once. And it's lonelier than anything you could have ever imagined. We waste the day in hand, yet petition the gods for more, sifting through the rubble of it for some expired sliver of grace, some busted trinket cast from eternity so we might forget death for another hour or two. Honey, those sirens out there, they sing for someone. Give me one last shot of useless beauty as it all comes down upon us. See, I never wanted to save the world, only to make it home before dark. And who among us? We sing our broken songs, all of us here abandoned in the trash heap of the 21st century, adrift in the algorithms, God's lonely fire in our veins, caught like flies between the last playoff game and the next celebrity death. The cardboard reality of each tired afternoon, a secret we're too afraid to tell. We toss the days aside like unwelcome gifts, imagining we are hungry for something other than what we've known. And what is left alive in the city but the ghosts? What music, what poetry, what unnamed thing to call our own? What blood is left in the sun, and who among us remembers how to burn? One moment, I need to let my cat out of the room. All right. Okay, I'm gonna read the one from the anthology here. It's called The Way That Fitzgerald Said. It's dark now and all the bright things sleep. We sit with sadness and wine and the cat smiled incomprehensible eyes, listening to the songs that the old gods sang as they set it all afire. And Ginny says, I don't want it all to turn to dust in my hands like in that Fitzgerald quote. I imagine taking her sorrow inside me like the Chinese brother swallowing the sea. She says, I didn't think I'd have to let you go so soon, as we sway with the frightened city and the lost things caught within, desperate for all the worlds that break should we try and touch them. The universe is dumb and vast with our failures, and the loneliness is the only perfect thing. And another one concerning loneliness. If your loneliness were a flag, you could wave it. If your loneliness were a flag, you could wave it high above your conquered lands. If it were a car, you could paint it metallic blue and drive it over the cliffs of hell into a fiery sea. If it were a ship, you could fly it into the heart of the sun. If your loneliness were God, you could petition it for mercy. If it were a stranger, you could turn it away at the door. If it were a heart, you could stop it. If your loneliness were love, you could steel yourself to it, toss its letters unopened into the trash. If it were a law, you could break it or strike it down. If it were a house, you could set it aflame and watch it glow from distant hills. If your loneliness were your mother, you could pack your things and run away and make it suffer for the years of pain. If it were a ghost, you could banish it back to the nether realms with a spell or a charm. But your loneliness is a song, and you have an ugly voice. The neighbors complain every time you try and sing. It's called The People in the Books I'm Reading. I'm at the computer with my wine, and there's a man outside my building calling the name of someone he'll never see again. As a drunk poets send me messages telling me how they're sad about their latest poems not getting enough likes and shares. And they're sad about their unrecognized genius and their unreviewed books. One tells me of an old lover's suicide as she spills wine across faded letters. Another hasn't slept for days, says she's enslaved by the phases of the moon. Eddie's muse has skipped town and Ginny's scared about 30 days in rehab. Anna stopped drinking and found God. She tells me this time for good. Frank's checking himself into the psych ward and they took his dog away. Angry Face is mad because I haven't read his manuscript. And the people in the books I'm reading are all setting things on fire and committing suicide. It's a bad night all around, and I can't do much for any of it. I'm sad too. I have my own dead lovers and unreviewed books. Now they're putting the guy outside into the back of a car as I gaze into the flashing lights and pour one more wine. When I sit down to answer one of the sad messages, I tell my poet friend not to worry too much. They'll cancel us all eventually. And my last one, a thing I have learned. The world won't stand to let you sit somewhere quiet and alone with a glass of wine, watching all the pretty things from a distance as they fade, for any length of time before it has to go and pull some shit. Thank you.
William Taylor Jr. Thank you, Bill. Julian Mithra hovers between genders and genres, border mongering and mongrelling, an experimental archive. Unearthingly, her Plunked Press 2022 excavates forgotten spaces. If the color is fugitive, Nomadic Press 2018 stages an escape from frontier taxonomies and was a finalist for a Lambda Literary Award. Kaleidoscope, Ethel Press 2021, flexes trans embodiment against alphabetic constraints. Currently, they're cobbling together a record of trans masculinity in the early 19th century. Let's welcome Julian Mithra.
Yay, thank you so much. Thank you. I love being part of these anthologies for the readings. They're like the most energetic, performance-oriented readings. And I was getting really emotional during the last reading. So FYI, I got to switch back into my emotionless self. So I'm going to share some plant knowledge. This poem that's in the anthology is from just like not an official series, just kind of ongoing inquiry into plant knowledge, like what we have to learn from plants. And so I've been working on like the intertidal zone plants, so plants that are kind of freshwater and kind of not freshwater. So this is from Cordgrass. Windmill Island. Keeping our all head above water, you each's idioms, chin up and stiff lip, even when river seizes chins and hollow necks. River surges, sweet brack brine. To engulfment submerse, there is air enough under. You each call colony so besotted with settlementing. We all wake, stretch curious, stretch recumbent. Upon the alongside, call it substrate, on top of and through. Bifurcate, trifurcate, quadfurcate. Is that it, Latin monger? Make more chimeric. On a skitter tide near harvest moon, we all gussy up glory, marigold featherlets in our hats, marigold tassels advertising sweet ass, while flirting with Aeolia and batting lashes at Zephyr. Sexy velocity sprung from us all, line dancing with wind. Then, spent and seed struck, we all go for broke. Brittle finials snap in knuckle lengths. Wholeness is not requisite for existence. Sexless propagation like meteors on a languine tide, holding almost still for a toehold. And these, sidestepping, beat bird, burrow into peat. Rather bored of motion, resource innards in the doldrums. Let's unknot for a month-long jack-off. Alone, abundant. Spread this muddy spree. Childing is derived from pleasure of territoriality. 1, build ground. 2, reside. And then the afterword is from piggyback mussels that aren't plants, but they're elective plants here. Our all grazers, almost us, foot held to a spot of stasis. Not yet endangered, lamp mussels and alewife floaters filter clarity from blur. Far from prairie ruminating, their tongueless mouths just fall open in awe. Ho, hitchhikers on the blue highway of youth, abloom with hot-footed want. Oh, muscles, flex, adduct. Yay, thank you. Okay. Yeah, I miss being in person, but this is really great. Okay, and then this is from a new collection where there's a lot of citations. So this has some phrases that hopefully you'll tell what they are from I think Hunting in Many Lands, from this like guidebook about the essays about hunting, I guess, from the late 1800s. His daring woodcraft. And I think these phrases are actually from the essay by Teddy Roosevelt. I was working on with him. His daring woodcraft. Paw-heered with shoulder, neck, foot, rib. Softened my heartbeat with a goose feather vest. A prowess for sound. Get that whistle stoppered. Animals perched in a high branch will first sense deer. Paw do indeed know the names by voice. Crow coughs. Turkey makes it plain. Jays steal a raptor's cry to frighten other jays. Chickadee sounds like itself. Chickadee for a squirrel. Chickadee-dee for a hawk. Chickadee-dee-dee for a worser threat. Paw say, hearing is snaring sound in a loop called an ear. Capturing abundance. Now, older in paw, it's wave upon wave of attention paid to soughing grass, faint pressure of a wolf's tail. Embraced by beetles skittering over leaves like an unrent mantle, creak of thickening bark, hoof sponging rock moss, or velvet shed dusting from raw antler. At dusk, bats squeak far beyond the utmost limits of my trap. I ordain lonely stragglers by gleaning do-si-do wings, chrysalis crackles. Spring, fairly thronged with pollen, strumming through the glade. Every sound whetted my appetite for silence. Yay, thank you.
Thank you, Julian Mithra. Taneesh Kaur is a writer, painter, and educator of East Indian descent based in the Bay Area. She is a social justice advocate who uses nature to understand and dismantle systems of mental and physical oppression. Their poetry has appeared in the San Francisco Public Library Poet of the Day series, Lake County's The Bloom, and was longlisted for the 2021 Frontier Poetry Open Prize. They write essays on politics, education, linguistics, and literature, with work appearing in dictionary.com and in the journal Discourse Studies. Taneesh has a master's in linguistics from San Francisco State, with training abroad in Mexico and Chile. But right here is Taneesh Kaur.
Thank you. Thank you, Great Weather. Thank you, Jane, David, Thomas. I wanted to build this set around the poem, but not read the poem in the book. So this is about ancestors. And the last two are personal. So just heads up with that. Bloodline. I drink the blood of my ancestors in gulps like water, becoming the river of a bloodline, flowing gently at times, violently at others, downstream. Salmon fight their birthright, their destiny, but the sweetness of surrender is in the onrush of the stream. Clothesline. There's no time like now to pull a nala through Kashmiri mother's hands, gripping Kashmiri dhoti, stretching into the silvars of Chandigarh, and the Punjabi women who hold them to San Francisco. Fabric stretching through Russian jail cells. Hello, Brittany Griner, Pussy Riot. Hijabs flowing like soft cotton bed sheets from Iran, swaddling the 200 missing Nigerian girls, floating into a living ivory down comforter over South Africa. Across the Atlantic, it stitches into sheared baby alpaca blankets over Latin America to Peru. Warming Argentina's and Chile's tortured women, past and present, their disappeared young fretting beads into leather over Turtle Island Canadian Guatemalan Native women, nestling the precious heads of Ayotzinap's and Canada's Turtle Islands fallen Native students to San Francisco, where I contemplate my existence with how to make Indian pigments and whether to buy handmade Jaipur paper while in a silk sari, sitting in a stolen china teacup, simmering like a stick of spicy cinnamon, like stolen Darjeeling tea leaves, brewing in mysterious Dasani water, boiling. This is untitled so far. It's pretty new. My relationship with my deceased mother is estranged. They say a mother's cells change once they've carried a child, and if to full term, their child's cells can stay in the mother's body for decades. This must be true for a mother's soul, I think. She was my best friend, and I was an inconsolable child, blocked out the abuse and the mutilation, took it out on the only person who listened to me. It's difficult to mend a relationship with a deceased person. Who is your mother? You go through the independent stage, rejecting everything they were, discovering the secret they left behind as scars on your body. But then you start to remember the love and how she woke you up one morning, her arms around your belly, your back against her chest, and for a few seconds feeling immense peace. or how you used to dream her alive, the only caveat she couldn't speak again. And you realize after years of bargaining into acceptance and healing that your sister, very much alive, was the parasite in disguise the whole time. And this is for my Nanaji. It's your maternal grandfather. I will close with this, and it's sort of a sister piece to the book, the one that's in the anthology. For my Nanaji. My marrow, my mother, my Nana and Naniji. Feed me sweet words in whispers, shared memories from my Nana's favorite color on us, my red orphan Annie dress matching his red turban by the corded tan phone hanging on the wood paneled wall. He teaches me how to draw peacocks. And I practice and show him, his smile pushing up his silver mustache. His last visit after my mother's death, her absence, screams through the house from the legs of silverfish and millipedes stampeding over the fireplace at dark. I make orange juice popsicles in the afternoons, toothpicked in ice trays. I don't give him one until he asks. I have no one, no support. I disappear into books until 4 a.m., a lonely time. I have no one and push him away. And now he gives me gifts, presents, reminding me that men can give. He gives me presence, attention. He gives me guidance, and it turns my fear into anticipation and fantasy and fancy. The end. Thank you so much.
Taneesh, Kaur, let's hear it, everybody. The Bay Area poets really representing here today. But now, to close, we're going to swing it back to our home base of New York City. Kofi Fosu Forson has written and directed plays for the Rian Theater, New York City. His play, Alligator Pass, was nominated for the Arnold Weisberger Award. His collaborations include the video project, Gender, Space, Art and Architecture in Liverpool, England, and the Dismember the Night Thread Poetry and Photography project at Tribes Gallery, New York City. Among his published works are short stories for Three Rooms Press's New York City 1 and New York City 2 anthologies, and poetry in Anti-Heroin Chic, Flapper House, and Great Weather for Media's The Understanding Between Foxes and Light. That was number 2 anthology. And folks, it's my pleasure to bring you Kofi Fosu Forson.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, David. Thank you, Jane. It's an honor to be in this book with all these wonderful poets, and it's nice to get a chance to see some of you today read. I'd like to dedicate this reading to the memory of Hillary Keel. Hillary Keel was a local poet, educator at Hunter College, was also based in Austria, and she passed away recently from an illness. I'd like to start with a poem that was published in this anthology. It's called When I Breathe in the Bronx. When I breathe in the Bronx, the air welts in my lung like fist. Generations of doers built bricks that made walls for you to live. Gone are night watches when we kept wake, looked over our shoulder. We die differently now. Our houses still burn down. Our razors are store-bought. I'd slit your tongue. That's just the way we speak. Another way of saying step off. Shakespeare wears bomber jacket, Puerto Rican. He spits rhymes, writes sonnets. His magnum opus, 3-act plays where you are born, you live, then you get a rep. Pimping round the way girls to work for your brand new car flipping business. Toro is cutting heads, that's just how he do. Cesar, skin fade, afro fade, frohawk. Natty put a kid through school, make money in men's clothing, 3-piece suits. Jesus wears leather tank tops, about 10s at Dyke Bar. After hours, he hops at number 5. Worlds we comb, dead thieves become night fathers. Dollars get you baby milk. We're strong, not an island, far from big shits. We go downtown for Zadie Smith. Well thought up girls brush hair differently, spend nights watching documentaries. At BNN, I cop small talk with Cooper Union crushers, looking for brother to pose. I make like Errol Flynn, swashbuckle, muffin and cappuccino, up in it on Wakefield. Hair down to the waist. They walk differently, thin as a whistle from block to block. Big ass girls, blonde weaves will have none of it, letting me know by hollering. Ain't nothing new. J. Crew passed among us and let us something to go with our own. Ain't been the same since days when we moonwalked, rolled around cardboards. Nothing changed. We're waiting on money due for making hip hop worldwide thing. Instead of pumpkin spice, we sip on café con leche in Picasso or Hemingway. Stress us long enough, we put art on walls. Now what you'll find at the Guggenheim, MFA in art therapy. Come talk to tattoo-faced boys painting portraits of Big Pun. JMB for SNAP. When I love you, bring you home. Kuka bacalao. Red weather blue. I feel beautiful. Not like the goddess who died today. Tom, good guy, builds war machines he calls beautiful. Plenty liquor in the weather today to put him to sleep. I have come over to talk to him, not about war machines. He doesn't drink anymore. I've been sober a year now. I can think of a perfect world where engineers make arts, mechanical objects that could destroy lives, positioned, thought of as masterpiece, worthy of a gallery appraisal. We're not at war, not even today. Red weather turned blue. And Bolden, he'd go join the front line of an actual war. Today, I can look into him. His heart, his blood pumping. It's not much trouble or noise in the neighborhood. We're still looking away. The blueprints, red mud on the table. Black mirror. Finger wrestling molasses out of a tube, breaking out of jail. That dark thickness, coagulated, fist at the throat, thickening. Imprisonment, therefore, self a slave ship, afloat in oceans. These masters, the curriculum, what history lessons learned. Birthed, Black country, this land here, I fit thesis into creases. Mind-bending shifts from brown boy to worship Tonka toy. Present for the all-Americans, convinced my skin is non-skin, put through Rorschach tests, I determine what suits me best. Afforded vocabulary, definitions to complete the takeover, body and the governance, a system that possesses and obsesses. Freedom never bought, pulled, like dragging phantoms to sea. Same waters brought common misery, looming fate and destiny. And now drowned ghosts, rest asleep, all the alter egos I feared most. All right, great weather for media. It's been a pleasure to be here. I'm going to end with this one here called Colorless Cell. I am the poem in this poem, non-reflective of flesh and eyes. Portrait nonetheless, made officially sensed, attributed to by many failed attempts at writing a poem. Metamorphosis. Therefore, my existence counters self-disbelief, unbecoming. What is protracted from this birthing has no particular shape. Its nature, celebrated symptom, present within every human, feels short breath. Instance when leaves change color, texture. That too is undesirability, newness, potential. Another room. Places we go where the air replenishes all that has died off. Washed into sync. Fingers pull at haircut evenly as protest. A life taken's blood spill. Others march. Random girls cry. Not the thing alone causes rage, hearts fall into stomach pit. Thought, whisper, sometimes our selfless selves, pathetic id, phantom pulls the body through fog, ghost-like dispiritedness, how we ascend from culture, deteriorated, mass deportations. People canceled for being themselves, their lives lost forever. As ever, our planet welcomes the past, further futures to come. Could the cycle, live, love, life, be broken, become colorless? How about a hand for great weather for media and all these wonderful poets? It's been a pleasure to be here. Let's go, great weather for media.
Now, let's have a hand for Kofi, Fosu, Forson. Right? What about that? Huh? Wow, 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 wow. Hey, my colleague at Great Weather for Media, George Wallace, just put in the chat box, he just said, we are having some reading here today. And I want to wholeheartedly agree